A vast number of men drift through their existence without ever seizing the helm. They wake to alarms, respond to demands, fulfill obligations, collapse into rest, and then repeat the cycle. They allow external forces to author their story, and they simply recite the lines. They convince themselves this is life. Yet, a deeper study of human nature would call this a passive surrender, disguised as stability. Your presence here is no coincidence. A subtle, persistent instinct drew you to this message. That instinct, that quiet, unyielding yearning, is the fragment of you that has already sensed the truth. It's the part that has observed too many people lower their gaze, trade their self-respect for comfort, and make themselves small to belong in spaces that were never designed for their growth. That pattern stops here with this message. This isn't another speech designed to spark a fleeting burst of emotion. Inspiration is merely fuel for those who are already unmoored. It ignites fast, burns brightly, and leaves behind only ash. What you're about to absorb is a framework, a set of principles, the kind that those who study influence understood when they observed that power is not a goal to aspire to, but a set of disciplines to embody. The individual who cannot command their own impulses will inevitably be commanded by another. This is an unyielding law. There are no exceptions, no room for negotiation. You desire to evolve into someone whose presence commands attention. Then your first and most crucial task is to become a person you cannot disregard in your own eyes. Stop fleeing from the reflection in the mirror. Stop silencing the internal friction. Stop seeking permission to become the version of yourself you already know you are capable of being. The foundational move in the strategic framework is brutally straightforward. Acknowledge your precise starting point with unflinching honesty. If you're ready to face this reality, comment, "I see clearly right now." Principle 2. The internal battle. Before you aim to influence the world outside, you must subdue the conflict already raging within. This is the aspect most avoid discussing. Everyone is captivated by techniques, by outward strategies, by the art of influence. But they neglect the bedrock. They construct their ambitions on unstable ground and then express bewilderment when everything crumbles the instant authentic pressure arrives. The observers of power had no interest in individuals who disintegrated under duress. They analyzed those who grew more precise, more formidable under it. They grasped a truth that most spend their entire existence evading. Your most formidable adversary is not the person standing opposite you. Your most formidable adversary is the internal version of you that consistently selects comfort over advancement, distraction over concentration, and noise over stillness. That adversary inhabits your own consciousness, and it is deceitful. It articulates its arguments in your own voice. It wields your anxieties, your previous setbacks, your unhealed wounds as instruments against your own future. It advises you to postpone action. It suggests the circumstances aren't favorable. It insists you are unprepared. And the difficult reality is that most people heed this voice daily without ever recognizing its source. They confuse its cautionary whispers for wisdom, but this framework leaves no space for such self-deception. It mandates that you confront your own vulnerabilities directly, not to berate yourself, but to systematically dismantle them. With cool, strategic, unemotional precision. Every habit that diminishes your strength, must be identified and eliminated. Every justification that shields you from discomfort must be stripped away without hesitation. Every relationship, every setting, every pattern that drags you downward must be scrutinized with the detachment of a military strategist, not the sentimentality of someone desperate for approval. This is the internal conflict, and it is the only conflict of ultimate importance. Conquer this, and the external world transforms. You will operate on a different level. If you're ready to commit to this internal victory, comment "I am unshakable now" and mean it. Principle 3. Prioritize your growth without apology. A pervasive falsehood has been subtly instilled in the minds of people for generations. The falsehood that making your own development a priority is inherently selfish, harsh, or unkind. That if you choose your own path over someone else's comfort, you are somehow falling short. Society has cultivated guilt and used it to keep capable people confined, perpetually available and endlessly accommodating. The architects of power recognized this tactic long ago. They understood that an individual who does not make themselves a priority becomes a tool for everyone else's objectives. Useful, convenient, and ultimately expendable. The darker truth is that many who are exploited in this way believe they are experiencing love. They mistake access for affection. They confuse dependency with loyalty. They give endlessly until they are depleted. And then they are quietly set aside by those they sacrificed themselves for. This isn't loyalty rewarded. This is vulnerability exploited. Prioritizing your own path isn't cruelty. It is the ultimate form of self-respect. And without self-respect, you possess no stability. You cannot construct influence on someone who has no genuine sense of their own worth. You cannot build power on someone who requires constant external validation to feel legitimate. The person worthy of respect was the one who understood their own value so completely that they never needed to debate it, demonstrate it, or plead for it. They simply lived it, and the world adapted to that reality. Hear this clearly. Prioritizing yourself means guarding your time with the intensity of someone who knows exactly how finite it is. It means making choices aligned with your own vision, not based on managing the emotions of others. It means being prepared to disappoint those who are only at ease when you are functioning below your potential. It means eating properly, training with purpose, thinking with clarity, resting with intention, and treating your physical form and mental faculties as instruments of focus, rather than vessels for fleeting pleasure. It means severing anything, any behavior, any connection, any environment that consistently drains your energy without offering anything in return. This isn't isolation. This is curation. The person who carefully selects what enters their life, their mind, and their inner circle becomes formidable by default, because they are no longer accessible to everyone and everything. They have standards. They have boundaries forged not from fear, but from an unwavering understanding of their own trajectory. And when a person knows their trajectory, they cease to be distracted by everything that doesn't align with it. That kind of focus is compelling. That kind of discipline is uncommon. And uncommon things attract attention without ever having to ask for it. Comment, "I am my priority," and understand this isn't arrogance. It's the bedrock for anyone who has ever built anything significant. Principle 4. Silence as a strategic asset. A great many people cannot stop talking. They feel compelled to explain their reasoning, defend their choices, and broadcast their plans to anyone within earshot. They believe words create credibility. They believe being understood is synonymous with being respected. But those who studied the mechanisms of power understood a more dangerous truth. Silence is not a void. Silence is a deliberate tactic. It is the weapon most never wield because they are too uneasy with its presence. The world is saturated with noise. Everyone is performing, sharing excessively, and clamoring for recognition. And in a landscape drowning in noise, the individual who is intentionally, purposefully silent becomes the most commanding presence in any space they occupy. People cannot gauge them. They cannot anticipate them. They cannot influence what they cannot comprehend. And that uncertainty, that inability to easily define a person, generates an involuntary respect that no amount of boisterous self-assurance can replicate. Your silence is your sharpest tool. The person who speaks less is often perceived as knowing more. The person who reveals little is assumed to have much. Every word you hold back becomes a point of intrigue. Every reaction you suppress becomes a demonstration of control. When you cease explaining yourself to those who are never genuinely interested in understanding you, you reclaim energy that was being subtly drained each time you sought approval disguised as explanation. Reflect on how often you've over-explained a decision to someone whose mind was already made up about you. Consider how often you've argued to defend your worth to someone who never intended to acknowledge it. Each of those moments was a withdrawal from your own reservoir of power. The strategically minded individual does not engage in arguments. They observe. They do not react impulsively. They calculate. They do not announce their next move. They execute it and allow the outcomes to communicate in a language far more compelling than any words they could choose. Silence also accomplishes something within your own internal world that most never discover because they never remain quiet long enough to experience it. It hones your thinking. It sharpens your perception. It allows you to perceive people, situations, and dynamics with a clarity impossible when your mind is constantly generating output. The silent observer perceives everything. They notice subtle shifts in demeanor, fleeting expressions, the gaps between what is said and what is done. They become a student of human behavior, operating with an intelligence others cannot match because they are too busy speaking to ever truly see. Master your silence, and you command the space without ever raising your voice. If this resonates, comment, "I move in silence now." Principle 5. Forge yourself into something irreplaceable. Mediocrity is comfortable. That is precisely why it is hazardous. It demands nothing of you. It requires no sacrifice, no discipline, no willingness to endure discomfort while you reshape yourself into something stronger, more focused, more capable than you were the day before. Mediocrity will greet you each morning and whisper that today is not the day, that you have time, that you deserve ease, that you've already done enough. And countless individuals walk through that door daily, never questioning where it leads. It leads nowhere. It leads to a version of yourself decades from now that you would be ashamed to meet. The architects of strategy did not formulate their principles for average people. They formulated them for those who understood that in this existence, you are either being constructed or being eroded, and the world will not pause to ask your preference. So let the question land with force. What are you actually constructing? Not what you intend to construct when conditions improve. What are you building with your hours, your choices, your habits, and your attention right now in this moment? Because every day is either a deposit into or a withdrawal from the person you are becoming. There is no neutral state. There is no pause. Time is the one resource that continues to flow, regardless of whether you use it with purpose or surrender it to distraction. The person worthy of respect was the one who rendered themselves essential. Not through desperation, not through pleasing others, but through the relentless development of their own capabilities. They studied, they trained, they refined their thinking, honed their skills, and deepened their understanding of the world until they became the kind of person that influence naturally gravitates towards. Not because they asked for it, but because they built something genuine, something with substance, depth, and undeniable competence that represented itself in every setting they entered. This is what it means to become someone who cannot be overlooked. It's not about presentation. It's not about volume. It's about the quiet, unshakable certainty that you have performed the work most refused to do. That you engaged when others slept. That you trained when others made excuses. That you studied when others entertained themselves into oblivion. That you deliberately, repeatedly chose the difficult path without waiting for recognition. Develop your physical form like it is a tool you may one day rely on. Develop your mind like it is a sanctuary no external turmoil can breach. Develop your skills as if your future depends on them, because eventually it will. Develop your emotional composure until you can remain in the center of a storm and make clear, precise decisions while everyone around you is fracturing. Develop your reputation through consistent action over time until it enters rooms before you do. And understand this: the individual who forges themselves into something rare, something capable, something genuinely formidable does not pursue opportunities. Opportunities pursue them. People do not dismiss them. They cannot afford to. They have made themselves into something not easily replaced. That is the ultimate position of influence. Not dominance through aggression, but essentialness through excellence. Start now. The person you are striving to become has already waited long enough. Comment built different and then demonstrate it daily. Principle 6. Master your emotions, or they will master you. Every structure that has ever collapsed first fractured from within. Every person who has ever been defeated was first undermined internally before the world had a chance to finish them. This isn't abstract philosophy. This is the consistent repeating pattern of human history that the cold-eyed observer studied with surgical precision and documented with the honesty of those who refused to deceive themselves about what they saw. Emotional volatility is not a minor flaw you can ignore. It is a vulnerability, a fissure in your foundation. And the world, the people around you, the unpredictable currents of life, will find that fissure with alarming accuracy and exploit it without hesitation. Most individuals believe they control their emotions. They do not. They are simply in a phase where their emotions have not yet been tested to the point that reveals the truth. Apply genuine pressure, genuine loss, genuine betrayal, genuine failure, genuine humiliation. Then observe what exists beneath the surface of their composure. Witness how quickly logic dissolves when emotion takes control. See how rapidly someone who considered themselves disciplined begins to react impulsively, to strike out, to make choices from a place of pain rather than a place of strength. And those choices, those emotionally driven, reactive, uncalculated choices are the ones that ruin careers, destroy relationships, burn bridges, and dismantle in a single moment what took years to carefully build. Those who understood power realized that the most dangerous individual in any conflict is not the one with the most aggression. It is the one with the most restraint. The one who can feel everything and reveal nothing. The one who can absorb betrayal without wavering, endure provocation without reacting, and process pain without letting it cloud their judgment. That person is not unfeeling. That person is formidable because you cannot manipulate what you cannot destabilize. Consider the people in your life who have triggered your sensitivities, provoked reactions you later regretted. Understand this clearly. Every time you reacted emotionally in a situation demanding composure, you transferred power to that person. You showed them where to apply pressure. You revealed the precise point that bypasses your logic and seizes control of your behavior. And they filed that information away. Consciously or unconsciously, they now know how to influence you. The study of influence is built on this principle. Find the emotional trigger, apply the right pressure, and watch someone abandon their own strategy to chase a fleeting feeling. The solution is not to become emotionless. Suppression is not mastery. Someone who suppresses their emotions is simply sitting on a pressure cooker, functional until the moment they're not, and catastrophic when the lid finally blows. True emotional mastery is something far more refined. It is the ability to experience the full weight of an emotion. Anger, grief, humiliation, fear, and consciously select your response rather than unconsciously surrendering to a reaction. It is the practice of creating space between stimulus and action. A breath, a pause, a moment of cold, strategic clarity before you decide how to move. It is training yourself through repeated discipline to ask one question before you respond to anything that provokes you. Does this reaction serve my vision, or does it serve my wound? Because those are the only two options. In every charged moment, you are either moving from strength or moving from pain. You are either executing your strategy or abandoning it to satisfy an emotion that will be gone in 20 minutes, but whose consequences may linger for years. The strategically minded individual chooses strength every time, not because they feel nothing, but because they have trained themselves to value their long-term position over their short-term relief. They play the long game with the patience of someone who understands that true victory is never won in the moment of provocation. It is won in the months and years that follow, when the person who maintained composure is still standing, still constructing, still advancing, while the one who reacted is still explaining themselves, still recovering, still paying the price for a single moment of emotional indulgence. Your emotions are data. Use them, but never let them use you. If this principle is your new standard, comment "I control my mind." Principle 7. Become unreadable. Become unstoppable. The most influential individuals in history were not the loudest. They were not the most aggressive, the most visibly dominant, or the most overtly intimidating. They were the most unreadable. They moved through the world like deep water. Calm on the surface, impossible to measure from above, and far more powerful beneath than anything their exterior suggested. The architects of power studied these individuals obsessively. They understood that transparency in a world built on competition and human nature is not a virtue. It is a vulnerability. When people can read you completely, they can prepare for you. When they can predict your reactions, they can manipulate your decisions. When they understand your desires, your fears, your insecurities, and your pressure points with clarity, they hold a map to your undoing. And most will use it, not necessarily out of malice, but simply because human beings naturally leverage every advantage available to them when their own interests are at stake. This isn't cynicism. It's the honest study of human behavior. And ignoring it doesn't make you noble. It makes you naive. The person who chooses to be an open book in a world of calculated readers isn't being authentic. They're being strategically careless with the most valuable currency they possess: information about themselves. Now, understand what it means to become truly unreadable, because it's not about deception in the shallow sense of the word. It's not about lying, performing, or constructing a false identity for the world to consume. It's about strategic depth. It's about developing so many layers to your character, your thinking, and your behavior that no single person ever holds the complete picture of who you are, what you want, and how you operate. It's about mastering the art of revealing only what serves your current objective and withholding everything else, with the discipline of someone who understands that every piece of information they release about themselves is either a tool or a weapon, and the wrong person holding the wrong piece of information about you at the wrong moment can cost you more than you're prepared to lose. The unreadable individual isn't cold in the way people assume. They are warm when warmth serves a purpose. They are open when openness builds the right bridge. They are engaging when engagement is the most effective instrument in the moment. But none of it is accidental. None of it is uncontrolled. Every expression, every disclosure, every moment of apparent vulnerability is a conscious choice made by someone who is always thinking several moves ahead of the conversation they're currently in. This is called controlled projection, the deliberate management of the image and information you allow the world to access. It's the difference between someone who simply exists in a room and someone who decides exactly how that room experiences them. One is passive, the other is powerful, and the gap between them is not talent or charisma. It's awareness and intention applied consistently over time. Mystery commands what volume cannot. People are drawn to the unreadable in ways they can't fully articulate. There is a magnetism in mystery that no amount of loud self-promotion can replicate. When someone cannot fully figure you out, they think about you longer. They pay attention more carefully. They assign you a significance that goes beyond anything you explicitly claimed for yourself. You become intriguing by default. You become someone worth observing, worth understanding, worth pursuing, professionally, socially, personally. And in a world where attention is the most competitive resource, the person who commands it without chasing it has mastered one of the most sophisticated forms of influence that exists. Become layered. Become deliberate. Become the individual that people sense is operating on a level they haven't yet accessed. Speak less than you know. Show less than you feel. Reveal less than you have planned. And watch how the world shifts its posture toward you without you ever having to demand it. If you're ready for this, comment "You cannot read me." That person is not a fantasy. That person is the inevitable result of everything this code demands of you, and you are closer to them than you think. If you're ready to own this, comment "I cannot be ignored." Principle 8. The code is now yours. You have arrived at the end of this message. But understand something clearly. This is not a conclusion. This is a beginning. Everything you've heard across these 10 parts was not entertainment, it was instruction. It was a blueprint handed to you by some of the most clear, strategic minds that ever studied the mechanics of influence and human nature. They did not write for the masses. They wrote for the individual willing to look at reality without flinching, without softening the edges, without retreating into comfortable illusions that protect the ego but destroy potential. That individual is you. Or it is the version of you being forged right now in the fire of everything this code is demanding. The code is simple in structure, but ruthless in application. Master yourself before attempting to master anything else. Prioritize your growth without apology and without explanation. Forge yourself into something rare, something capable, something the world cannot easily replace or dismiss. Control your emotions with the precision of someone who understands that every reactive decision is a surrender of power. Curate your circle with the judgment of a leader who knows their environment is either their greatest asset or their most invisible liability. Move in silence, operate in depth, and become so layered, so disciplined, so internally fortified that the world has no choice but to feel your presence and reckon with what you have built. This is not a code you read once and file away. This is a code you live daily, deliberately, without waiting for conditions to be perfect. Because conditions will never be perfect. And the person who waits for them will wait forever. Start today with one decision, one standard, one boundary you refuse to compromise. Then build from there with the patience and precision of someone no longer operating on emotion, but on vision. The world does not reward the most talented person. It rewards the most relentless one. Be relentless. Be unreadable. Be untouchable. Be the person this code was written for. The one who mastered themselves first, prioritized themselves first, and became impossible to ignore. For the final time in this video, if this code is now your operating system, comment now I am the code and claim everything that phrase represents. If this resonated, please hit the like button to support Winds of Thought. Subscribe and turn on notifications. The foundation is being laid. Make sure you're part of it.